Okay, today we're starting up a new unit. This is unit number 6. So we're going to make a new unit title, which is going to be Unit 6 Central Asia. We go ahead and write that down as our unit title. So Unit 6 Central Asia. So right down at the top of your notes. And after you've written down Unit 6 Central Asia, then we're going to make our section title, which is Indus River Valley. So go ahead and write down Indus River Valley and underline it, because that is our section title. So Indus River Valley and underline. So we're going to be talking about the Indus River Valley. There are 4 major river valley civilizations in the world. There's the Wang He, which is in China. There's the Indus River Valley, which is in India, in nowadays Pakistan, but this is associated with India for simplicity's sake. The Tigris and Euphrates River valleys. And then the last one is the Nile River Valley in Egypt. Right? So those are the 4 river valley civilizations. So you got Nile, Tigris and Euphrates, Indus, and the Wang He. And the Tigris and Euphrates count as one river valley because they're right next to each other. All right. Gonna make a bullet, and we're gonna write down Indus Valley. So bullet, Indus Valley. So I said the best way to associate the Indus River Valley is associated with India. It is in present-day Pakistan, but just kind of remember Indus, India, and then you'll kind of be in the right area. Let's go ahead and make a 1, though, and let's write down that's in present-day Pakistan. So 1, present-day Pakistan. So 1, present-day Pakistan. Now, the Indus River Valley civilization is normally called the Harappas. So that's normally what they're called. It's named after the city Harappa. There's also another important city called Mohenjo-daro. So you had Harappa and you had Mohenjo-daro. So those are like the 2 like big cities that they had in the Indus River Valley. And as I said, the civilization is normally called the Harappas. Is normally what it's called. We're going to make it 2. We're going to write down Indus Valley civilization flourished around 4,000 to 1,000 before Common Era. So the Harappa, when you had Harappa and Mohenjo-daro as kind of your 2 big cities, they kind of flourished in between the 4,000 to 1,000 before Common Era time period. All right, that's when this civilization's kind of going in this area. So that's when the valley is just kind of going and developing stuff. Then eventually, of course, obviously, it spreads out from there and such. So this map here shows us our early river valley civilizations in the world. So you had a Wang He over here in China, Indus River Valley right over here, Tigris Euphrates right here, and then you had a Nile right there. So those are 4 major river valley civilizations. And river valley civilizations are important because of the first civilizations to get going in the world. So the first ones to really kind of get going past the Stone Age and start settling down and farming. All right, so those are where those first 4 were at. Now, in the Indus River Valley, they did end up developing writing at about 4,000 before Common Era. We can see that's the same as everybody else. So you can see the Nile River, Egypt, they developed writing in that time period. Mesopotamia, Tigris, Euphrates developed writing in that time period. China kind of developed the writing in that time period. It's weird that China becomes really technologically advanced, but the writing actually comes a little bit later than the other groups. And then Indus Valley also developed the writing at this time period. Let's go ahead and make a 3. And on the 3 line, we're going to write down 4,000 before Common Era. Equal sign, writing developed. We're going to write that for number 3. So number 3, 4000 before Common Era writing developed. And you can see that's pretty common across the entire world. As I said, China comes a little bit later with their writing than the other 3 places. But China does end up getting technologically kind of ahead of everybody else. This is kind of just talks about the development of Harappa. So yeah, Harappa kind of early on development, and then it's kind of later on Harappa. So I kind of just talk about the time period in which they were developing. And in the Harappa area, they did have trade. A lot of their trade was based on trading things like lapis lazuli and other materials for bead making. So it's kind of like their jewelry. You know, they did a lot of bead making. They had crops including peas, sesame seeds, dates, and cotton. So there's things that they grew in the area. They had domesticated animals. The one that they had as their main domesticated animal was the water buffalo. I'll show you a picture of that so you kind of know what that looks like. There you go. There'll be a water buffalo. But yeah, they domesticated the water buffalo, and that's the animal that they mainly use in India. That was the first one they kind of domesticated for working and so forth. So that's the domesticated animal that they have in India is the water buffalo. 4, mud brick for building. So 4, mud brick for building. We talked about mud brick before. It came up when we were talking about China. We talked about mud brick. Mud brick, once again, is pretty easy to make. You just need some water. You need some dirt. You mix the water with the dirt. You get mud, and then you have to combine something else with it to make it stable, to make it to give it structure, and that's straw. So you take water, add the dirt, and then you need something bind it all together. You add in straw, stir it up, let it sit out in the sun. Bam, there you go, mud brick. So not too hard to make. But yeah, you do need that binding agent to keep it kind of all held together. All right, so you can see Harappa right here. And you can see how the civilization developed down into the east, into the west, but never went north. Why is it that they never expanded to the north? Simple enough reason. Himalayan mountains are right there. So since the Himalayan mountains are right there, and you got Mount Everest in the Himalayan mountains, tallest mountain in the world. Since you got a whole bunch of mountains there, super difficult to cross through. And they're just like, no. So that's why they never developed up there. So they developed on this nice flat land right here along the river where they could easily farm at because, land's flat, easy to farm on. You don't have to, you don't have to break down the land and get it flat yourself. You just can just farm it because it's already flat. So nice area to begin a civilization at. So nice area. There's lots of also they can farm pretty easily there. Lots of water. Very fertile because the river floods and brings nutrients out into the ground when it floods. All right. Go ahead and let's make a new bullet. We're going to write down Harappan. So we're going to talk a little about the city now. So bullet Harappan. So again, the civilization of the Indus River Valley is called the Harappa civilization. 2 main cities are Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. And when the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro really become major cities is by 2,500 before Common Era. Let's go and make a 1. And we're going to write down by 2,500 before Common Era, communities have been turned into urban centers, basically cities. So that's when you got your 2 big cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. That's when those 2 major cities are really kind of getting going is by 2,500 before Common Era. So that's when they're really becoming cities, and that's when they're really going. How did those cities really kind of get going in the area? How did they really start developing? A main thing that helped them to really get going as cities is they figured out irrigation. Let's go ahead and make a 2. Irrigation used to increase crop production and mud brick structures. That's where they really started figuring things out. Is once they figured out irrigation and they figured out how to bring water to their crops from the river without having to do it through buckets. That's when crop production really started to get going. I remember irrigation is when you dig a ditch from the river out to your farmlands, and therefore you have water flowing to where your farmlands are. You can see multiple examples of this in the Columbus area because of the East Fork of the White River. You can see how there's multiple irrigation ditches that come off from that to farmland. So if you kind of just look around, you'll see a lot of those where water is actually flowing away from the river rather to it. Or sorry, it's flowing away into more of a stream. So you have the stream that's kind of flowing away from the river rather than to the river. So that's the irrigation ditch used to bring water off the croplands. And you'll see how they kind of run the croplands if you follow them. All right. Continuing along. So they're right by mountains and such, and they're by a couple other areas. How did being by the mountains really help them to develop? Well, in mountains, there's a couple things in the mountains that really help you to kind of develop. Let's go ahead and make a 3 and write down the word mountains and then equal sign. So mountains, equal sign. So what things are in mountains that are helpful? Well, things you get up there that are helpful after equal sign after mountains. We're going to make, so we got mountains, equal sign. We're going to write down timber. So mountains, equal sign, timber, minerals, gold, and silver. So we're going to write down mountains, equal sign, timber, minerals, gold, and silver. So the main thing to kind of remember about mountains that they're important is you got pretty good trees that grow in mountains. Therefore, you can cut those down. You can get wood from them, timber. You can also find minerals in the mountains as well, like gold, silver, iron, tin, for example, are all kind of in that area. Tin's pretty important for a Bronze Age civilization because tin and copper makes bronze. All right. Tin is pretty hard to find. So if you do have access to tin, that's pretty important. That's a hard one to kind of usually find so that you can make bronze. This is a big problem in Europe. There is only like 2 places you could really get tin from. So it made it kind of difficult to kind of get really going into the Bronze Age, when your tin supply only came from like 2 places. So tin, super important for getting going on a Bronze Age civilization. For valley areas, the areas in between those mountains, you can get like lapis lazuli, for example, and other minerals. Coastline. Let's make a 4 and write down coast. So 4, coastline. And on the coastline, what's important about the coast? We got 4, coastline, equal sign. Main thing that's important about is fishing and trading. So we got 4, coast, equal sign, fishing and trading. So the real important things about being next to the coast is that it makes it easier to trade. And the fish, obviously, you got fish also in the river as well of the Indus River. But going to the coast, you can also do some ocean fishing as well. And the fish out in the ocean are bigger, than your river fish. Trading is also super important as well because the boat be floating, and since there are no trees in the water, you can move a lot quicker back in the day over water than over land. Because back in the day, going over land, it's bumpy. You have trees you got to deal with. You got to navigate all that. It's kind of a pain in the butt. You got up and down hills. But on a boat, no hills, no trees. You don't have anything in your way. You can kind of just move the boat. So it was a lot quicker for people back in the day to move by boats from place to place than by going over land from place to place. All right, let's go ahead and stop there for today.